Today's bias break is going to be a little bit different because I got this by way of a request. So let's just go ahead and dig in. And let's start with an uncomfortable truth. You and I think we're following the evidence. We're not. We're following the story. Narrative bias is the brain's need to make meaning out of absolute chaos, and it is relentless. The prefrontal cortex, the PFC, that part of the brain that thinks it's in charge, is actually working backwards most of the time. The story comes first, the logic gets assembled to support it. That's not a character flaw, that's architecture. The human brain processes roughly 11 million bits of information per second. It consciously handles about 40. That's a big gap. So what fills that gap? I'll tell you. Pattern, story, narrative. The brain doesn't wait for all the facts. It builds the plot with what it has and then defends it like it's scripture. Here's where it gets really sneaky. Let's talk about coherence illusion. We don't just tell stories, we tell coherent stories. The brain will literally delete, distort, and reframe information that doesn't fit the narrative it's already committed to. Psychologists call this cognitive consistency. You might know it as confirmation bias's older, meaner cousin. It's not that you ignore the contradictory fact. It's that your brain quietly files it under irrelevant, suspicious, before you even consciously register it. You never saw it coming because you never saw it at all. And then there's the narrative fallacy. Nassim Taleb named it, but humans invented it long before he ever wrote it down. We take a sequence of events, assume causation. It goes like this: A happened, and then B happened, therefore A caused B. Post hoc ergo propter hoc. After this, therefore, because of this. It feels logical. It has the shape of logic because sequence is not cause. And the story we build around that sequence becomes the lens we can't see past. Think about how many leadership decisions, organizational policies, and then personal beliefs are built entirely on this. Something worked once in one context for one set of people, and now it's a doctrine for everybody. And let's not even forget about the protagonist problem. Here's the one that stings. In every story your brain constructs, you are the protagonist, not the villain, not the bystander, the hero, or at a minimum, the reasonable one who's got it all together, right? This isn't ego. This is neuroscience. The self-serving bias and narrative bias work together to ensure that your memory, your interpretation, your retelling of events all subtly center your reasonableness. Convenient, right? Which means the version of what actually happened that lives in your head is not neutral data. It's a story that has already been edited in your favor, and you did it without even knowing it, without even meaning to do it, without lying. That's what makes it so hard to challenge in others and nearly impossible to catch in yourself. And here's the sneakiest move of all: filling the gaps. Stories need to be continuous. Life is not. So when there's a gap, missing information and unexplained behavior, an ambiguous move, the brain fills it automatically, instantly, with whatever fits the existing narrative. Someone doesn't respond to your email, the story fills in. They're dismissing me. They don't respect me. They're not taking it seriously. Or they're drowning in a family crisis you don't know about. Both are actually possible. The brain doesn't offer both. It offers the one that fits what you already believe about that person, that situation, or that pattern. Gaps aren't neutral space. They're narrative real estate, and your bias moves in immediately. So what this costs us? In leadership, decisions get made on the story, not the data. In culture, groups reinforce shared narratives until narratives become the culture, and anyone who contradicts it feels like a threat. In relationships, and here's where we really need to slow down, we stop seeing people and start seeing our story about them. In institutions, the official version of history crowds out the lived experience of the people the institution was never built to serve. Narrative bias doesn't just distort individual perception, it scales, it embeds, it institutionalizes. So what do we do about this? First, slow down before the story hardens. The window between event and interpretation is small, but it exists. And in that window, there's a question worth asking. What am I assuming right now that I haven't verified? Second, find the gap and name it. Where is your narrative the thinnest? Where are you filling in motivation, intention, and meaning with assumption? Label it out loud. I don't actually know why they did that. That sentence is harder to say than it looks. And then third, invite the counter narrative. Not to be fair for fairness sake, but because the counter narrative is usually where the actual truth is hiding. Ask, what's the version of this story where I'm wrong? Sit with it. Really sit. Fourth, audit your protagonists. In the stories that shape your organization, your team, your beliefs, who gets to be the hero? Who gets written as problem, obstacle, or cautionary tale? That casting isn't accidental. It's a map of where the bias lives. The goal isn't to stop telling stories. Stories are how we make meaning of things. They're how we touch and connect and teach and remember and even hope. The goal is to hold your stories loosely enough that truth can still get in. That takes discipline. It takes intellectual humility. And honestly, it takes the kind of courage that doesn't get celebrated nearly enough. The willingness to say, my story might be wrong. That's not weakness. That's how thinking actually works. So do me a favor. Follow for more bias breaks. They make you sharper, not louder.